A family lunch, a home-cooked meal, a close-knit community, and a tragedy so bizarre, so calculated it would grip the world. This is the story of Erin Patterson, a plate of beef Wellington, and the death cap mystery that shook Australia. The town of Korumburra, nestled in the green hills of regional Victoria, isn't the kind of place that makes international headlines. But on July 29, 2023, that all changed. What started as a family lunch ended with 3 dead, 1 critically ill, and an investigation that felt more like a Shakespearean tragedy than a real-life crime. The so-called mushroom lunch has become one of Australia's most talked-about criminal cases. Erin Patterson, 50, is now at the centre of a mushroom murder mystery. This story doesn't begin with a deadly lunch. It begins with a marriage in quiet decay. Erin Patterson and her husband Simon once shared a home in Korumburra, raising 2 children together. But behind closed doors, the relationship was faltering. They separated, yet remained amicable on the surface. In late 2022, tensions rose. Bitter disputes over money fractured their connection further. Erin moved to the nearby town of Leongatha. Despite the separation, Erin remained closely tied to Simon's family, and it was those ties that would lead to disaster. 2 weeks before the tragic lunch that would soon make headlines, Erin had attended a Sunday church service led by Pastor Ian Wilkinson. The service had been uneventful, but afterward, Erin made a notable gesture. She extended an invitation to the pastor and others for a meal at her home. Her stated reason was the desire to speak about a medical issue, though the real intent of the lunch would come under scrutiny later. The guest list she curated was intimate, yet loaded with tension. Her estranged husband Simon, his parents Don and Gail, Gail's sister Heather, and Heather's husband, the very same Pastor Ian. Simon, however, had reservations. As the lunch date neared, he backed out. On the day itself, he sent Erin a text that revealed his discomfort. "Sorry, I feel too uncomfortable about coming to lunch with you, Mum, Dad, Heather, and Ian." His message hinted at long-standing friction and unease within the family. Erin's response was tinged with visible irritation. She reminded him that she had gone out of her way for the lunch, buying expensive beef fillet to prepare a special dish, beef Wellington. The tension between the two was evident in this exchange, a subtle prelude to what would become a tragic mystery. On July 29th, the day of the lunch, Erin's children were conveniently out at the cinema. At home, Erin welcomed her 4 guests as planned and served them a hearty meal. Beef Wellington, accompanied by mashed potatoes and fresh greens, was served to each person in individual portions. It seemed like any other Sunday family lunch on the surface. But it was anything but. The choice of meal, the setup, and the circumstances all began to look eerie in hindsight. The seemingly normal lunch setting masked something darker. When the police would later investigate the incident, they took special note of the dining details. Something that seemed insignificant at first began to stand out. While the 4 guests were all served their meals on large, uniform grey plates, Erin herself had a different setup. Her plate was smaller and a noticeably lighter colour. This discrepancy, subtle yet intentional, raised flags. Why was Erin's plate different? Was it just random, or did it signify premeditation? As investigators dug deeper, questions multiplied. The choice of guests, Simon's last-minute refusal, Erin's frustration, the choice of a complex dish like beef Wellington, and the differing plates all painted an unsettling picture. What had initially been seen as a family gathering meant for reconciliation or discussion suddenly appeared to be something far more sinister. The lunch had ended with devastating consequences, but the planning, behavior, and details leading up to it revealed an intricate web of motive, resentment, and possible forethought. In a dramatic twist, Erin claimed she had cancer. She told them she might need treatment soon. They prayed. But police would later confirm Erin had never been tested. It was a lie, a calculated lure. That night, the 4 guests became violently ill. Within days, Don, Gail, and Heather were dead. Ian Wilkinson, critically ill, fought for his life. Erin, too, presented to hospital claiming she felt sick. Doctors warned her she'd likely ingested a deadly toxin. She left against medical advice. This is a unique and tragic case. Mass poisonings like this are extremely rare. When questioned by authorities after the incident, Erin claimed she had used mushrooms purchased from both Woolworths and a local specialty grocer in the beef Wellington she served. This statement immediately triggered a wave of concern, sending health officials into overdrive. Supermarket shelves were checked, grocers were questioned, and public warnings were considered. Investigators came across a curious detail: a post on a mushroom identification forum dated just one day before the fateful lunch. The post confirmed that deathcap mushrooms, highly toxic and often fatal if ingested, had been recently spotted near South Gippsland. The timing was suspicious, but what sealed investigators' interest was a damning piece of digital evidence. Erin's phone location data placed her in that exact area just days before the meal. Even more suspicious was the fact that she spent approximately 25 minutes in that specific spot. Not long, but more than enough time for someone familiar with the terrain and intent on harvesting something very specific. The investigation led to Erin's home, where forensic teams began piecing together her food preparation habits. They discovered she had used a dehydrator, a device commonly used to dry mushrooms and other perishables. When asked why she threw it away, Erin admitted it was because of what Simon, her estranged husband, had said to her in the hospital. According to her, Simon had turned to her in suspicion and asked, "Is that what you used to kill them?" Whether that accusation was rooted in guilt, paranoia, or clarity in the moment remains uncertain, but it left a lasting impression. Further examination into Erin's behavior exposed a pattern of calculated evasion and digital manipulation. Authorities found evidence that she had access to multiple phones and SIM cards, swapping them frequently. As detectives unraveled the layers of this case, it became increasingly clear that the lunch had been far more than an unfortunate coincidence. With evidence pointing to premeditation, from the possible foraging trip to the disposal of key items and the calculated use of communication tools, the narrative began to shift from one of accidental tragedy to deliberate harm. Whether driven by personal motives, deep resentment, or something else entirely, Erin's actions before, during, and after the lunch cast a dark shadow over what she had originally claimed was just a simple family gathering to discuss a medical issue. When the case went to trial in mid-2025, media descended on the sleepy town of Morwell. Motels filled with journalists, podcasters, true crime authors. Curious onlookers camped out in the cold for a seat in the courtroom. Inside, Erin Patterson stood trial for 3 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. Erin shocked the court by taking the stand in her own defense, a rare move in Australian trials. Through tears, she admitted to lying about cancer, about the mushrooms, about messages she'd sent cursing Simon's family. But she insisted, "I did not intend to hurt anyone. I bought mushrooms at the grocer. I thought they were safe. Maybe I mixed them with ones I'd foraged earlier. I don't know." The prosecution pressed hard. Why the different plates? Why the false cancer story? Why the deleted phone data? Why dump the dehydrator? Each answer left more questions. Poison is often the weapon of choice in female-perpetrated homicides. It's quiet, secretive, and gives time to act and deflect suspicion. She wipes her eyes, but there are no tears. Her behavior is evasive. She talks about feelings, not facts. Classic indicators of deception. Erin on tape. "I just can't fathom what has happened. I loved them." After a 9-week trial, 12 jurors reached a verdict. Guilty. Erin Patterson was convicted on all counts, 3 murders, 1 attempted. The community mourned. Justice perhaps was served, but questions still linger. They were wonderful people. My parents always waved goodbye. Mum's final text to our family group said, "Lots of love to you all. Korumburra will never be the same." For a town so small, the story was enormous. A mystery that became myth. A trial that became theatre. A quiet town. A home-cooked meal. And a tragedy that shocked the world. The story of Erin Patterson's mushroom lunch is one of deception, death, and chilling mystery. 3 lives lost, 1 survivor, and a case that continues to haunt Australia. If you found this story gripping, like, share, and subscribe to Last Known Truth, where every case uncovers the secrets they tried to bury.